Greetings hip-hop fans, hip-hop artists, hip-hop producers. Today's video is made especially for you because I'm going to be exploring hip-hop vocal production techniques. Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in. My name's Mike, I'm the owner of Mick Productions. I'm a music producer and mixer engineer, and today's video I'm going to be having a chat about hip-hop vocal production techniques. Hip-hop, whilst it's very popular now, it's been around for years, probably dating back to the late 70s and early 80s, of real early hip-hop. But certainly some of the vocal production techniques are very similar now to what they were in the early days. Certainly our tools and the tools that we use have evolved, but a lot of the techniques are fairly similar. And today I just want to give you a brief overview of how to get some of those sounds and some of the tools that you'll need. First and foremost, microphone selection. Now, this is really going to be determined by your vocalist. Certainly if it's a female or a male voice, different microphones have different sounds and suit different types of voices. So the type of microphone you select will be largely dependent on that. But today I want to give you an overview of a particular microphone that I see used a lot in hip-hop, and I personally use it a lot in my own productions, and it tends to work really well. That microphone is the Shure SM7B. This mic has been around for a long time, traditionally was a broadcast microphone, and today it's used everywhere in vocals. It's great on guitar cabs. I've covered a bit more detail on this microphone in one of my previous videos, but certainly when you're talking about hip-hop, this microphone does exceptionally well. The main reason it works well is it's a dynamic microphone, so it can handle a lot of sound pressure and a lot of volume. A lot of aggressive singers, even in the metal and punk genres, tend to use this microphone because it can handle a lot of that aggressive sound and the high level. It's a dynamic microphone, so it doesn't have the detail that a condenser will have. So certainly if you've got, say, a female hip-hop voice, I find condensers tend to work better for female voices. The SM7B works well occasionally there also, but I find condensers probably work better if you're looking to capture a more sort of intimate, brighter and detailed sound. But the SM7B is going to be a great option for you to really capture that sort of aggressive vocal without it sounding harsh. It's also largely dependent on the preamp and the type of gain setup that you're using. This microphone needs a lot of clean gain, so you can get that. If you're going to get this microphone, I recommend you get something like a cloud lifter. There's a picture on screen right now. That couples well with the SM7B to get your level up a bit, because it is a dynamic microphone that works at a fairly low level, so you need to, as I said, get a fair bit of clean gain in there. Distortion on vocals is something that, in my opinion, is an important part of that hip-hop sound. Now, once again, it really does depend on the flavour of hip-hop and the vibe that you're going for, but distortion can be used in a wide variety of methods, and it doesn't necessarily mean completely distorting the vocals so that it's crushed to smithereens. It can also mean a sort of subtle distortion that gives you a lot more body to the vocal, and that can be achieved through distorting a preamp or driving it a little harder. You can do it with plugins as well. If you're in a fairly basic setup where you're using software and plugins, there are a number of plugins you can use to get a distorted vocal sound too. Compression. Now, I've covered compression quite a bit in some of my previous videos, so I'm not going to sort of delve into the detail of how to use a compressor or what sort of compressor to use specifically, but compression is really important when you're dealing with hip-hop vocals, because you're usually dealing with a really dynamic voice. So you've got sort of quiet and soft periods that can go from super aggressive to almost whispering. So Compression is used to simply reduce the dynamic range and give you a punchier sound. Now, my personal preference for vocal compressors and hip hop, the LA2A is a great option. It's a leveling amplifier and really is used really just to smooth out the vocal and give you a more even volume. The 1176, I use that a lot, more as a creative tool because I can get more pop out of the vocal. I can get it to get really super upfront, and that particular sound of the 1176 in my toolkit is an essential one also. Now, compression, in my experience, I would use it both at the tracking stage and during the mixing stage, depending on how much compression is needed. I'll usually use a bit of compression on the way in just to keep the vocal under control. And then when I'm mixing, I'll often use plugins or sometimes some outboard gear, depending on what the track needs. But yeah, compression is a super important part of getting that hip-hop vocal sound. When you're recording a vocal, doubling and ad-libs are an important part of a complete vocal take for a hip-hop track. Doubling is used to get a thicker vocal. It's also used lyrically to sort of reinforce certain phrases and make them stand out more and make them more powerful. Ad-libs are used as probably more of a creative tool, depending on the vocalist's style. Ad-libs are used to add a lot more vibe and flavour with the vocal, and once again reinforce and reiterate certain phrases. It also gives you an element of making the vocal sound more interesting. If I'm producing a hip-hop track, I might record a couple of different ad-libs, and you can split one to the left and right to get a bit more variety in your vocal track, because one of the common problems with hip-hop productions is they can become sort of repetitive for the listener. So you want to create a vibe that is interesting and have different sections of the song that maybe utilize doubling and ad-libs. Auto-tune, that's also been around for a while, and certainly from a hip-hop perspective, it's probably used more in melodic hip-hop music. If you've got like a vocal hook or a chorus that is repeated through the song and it has a really sort of melodic vibe, auto-tune is used a lot. In my experience, auto-tune is rarely used for sort of really aggressive hip-hop verses, which I guess almost border on that sort of conversation talking style of vocalists, and generally auto-tune doesn't really work in that scenario unless you want that particular sound of a fast auto-tune to add to your track. But generally speaking, auto-tune works a lot better with a melodic track. Well, I hope you've enjoyed my brief overview of hip-hop vocal production techniques. I hope you picked up a few new tricks that you can use in your recordings in the future. Remember to check out my website, mnproductions.com.au. As I mentioned earlier, there's a whole heap of blog entries and information that I have for you there that you can delve deeper into specific topics around music production, and certainly make sure you like and subscribe to my channels, and I look forward to catching you again soon.